This time I'll call the York County Council Budget Workshop to order. Our first order of business is to hear from Jason Hyatt, Executive Director of York County Library. And is Lee coming up together? Okay. And Lee Smith, Finance Manager, to address council regarding their budget.
Good evening. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about the library's budget request. We want to be respectful of your time, and in the spirit of our folks who have gotten used to quick and easy to digest information access at the library, we're going to keep our presentation brief. First, want to thank you all, County Council and the County Administration, for the support of library staff over the past year. As you all know, it's been very challenging, and staff have repeatedly let me know how much they appreciate the care and concern that the county and administration have extended to them. So we appreciate that very much. Our tagline at the library is Your Community Link, and we think it's our essential task to connect people with ideas, resources, services, and programs that they need to satisfy their information needs and demands. But beyond that, we also try to be responsive and relevant and respectful. That's responsive to the needs of our patrons in the community, relevant with our collections and services, and respectful of the resources we have and the spending we do in pursuit of our organizational goals. So with the challenging year behind us, and probably some more challenges to come, we have been able to re-examine some of our processes, look at some of our services, and make some additions and expansions to services that the library offers. They are on your handout. We highlighted 9 of them. I'm not going to read all of them to you, but I just want to mention a couple that have been especially popular. The first would be our expansion of the virtual library. Thanks to the funding we receive from the county, as well as funds from the state of South Carolina administered through the state library, we have been able to expand our virtual library collection to over 1 million streaming items. And over the past year, in the record keeping, our use of electronic material checkout has more than doubled. So last fiscal year, it was about 82,000. It's double that this year. And we're now seeing our print resources and other physical materials start to bounce back after the pandemic as people are getting used to being back in the library. Something else we added that was in direct response to community demand is our e-card program. In the past, a new resident could only get a library card by physically coming to the library. We came up with a process so that any branch can issue digital cards, get those sent via email, and a new patron can hop on and use our virtual library and electronic resources, sometimes as fast as half an hour or an hour after they submit the form. One other service that has been very popular, and I should add that everything on the sheet we are going to continue offering even post-pandemic. So we are working on ways to integrate all of these into our ongoing services after everything returns to normal, is curbside pickup. We still have folks in the community who are hesitant to come into a public building, or they may have mobility issues, or we hear at some of our branches the parking lot may be full. So offering curbside pickup has been a great way for us to serve those patrons whose comfort level is allowing them to come to the library parking lot, but maybe not come all the way into the library. We've especially heard from patrons who are senior citizens that this has been a very well-received service for them. And lastly, we do work closely with the public school districts in the county. Over the past year, we have partnered with 3 of those districts to be part of the SOAR program. That connects one of our vendor services with the library collections of the local public schools and makes them available through a unified app for the students. So we're able to take what we make available through our virtual library and extend that access to all of the students. Right now it's in Clover and Fort Mill schools and Rockhill. So we look forward to that expanding countywide. All of these things that we've done have been thanks to the ongoing support of the county. And to talk a little bit more about that support in the form of our budget requests and some details, I will turn it over to our finance manager, Lee Smith.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. So I just wanted to start by emphasizing that we are not asking for an increase in our number of mills. So we've prepared our budget based on the new value of a mill and nothing more. You will see, I know you have the handout from Jason on the backside. We put our budget request. You'll see some decreases in funding from other sources. We are no longer budgeting with fines and fees, and we are anticipating a significant decrease in donations, specifically from our Friends of the Library, and this does impact our Bucks for Books program as well as our restricted gifts and grants income. As far as expenditures, with personnel, our personnel budget is only going to increase by just over $9,000 this year. Since last year's budget included a COVID bonus, that amount is now going to be allocated along with the additional $9,000 towards a merit increase, assuming the county does choose to move forward with that, and moving a few 30-hour positions that we have outstanding that we inherited to 40-hour positions, so that all of our full-time employees are actually working 40-hour shifts. Not shifts, but 40 hours in a pay period. As far as operations, you'll see that we have small to moderate increases in the cost of our insurance, telephone, printing supplies, building supplies, our audit, our office supplies, and our SC Lens consortium membership. And decreases in the amount of the funds that we're applying towards vehicle operation, utilities, travel, and public programming. However, I would like to point out that the decrease in public programming funds is just the amount that we're no longer receiving from the Friends of the Library, and we had enough time for our programmers to adjust to this, as well as had some carryover that they donated last year that we weren't able to use due to most of our programming being done virtually, so all of our programmers are in good shape in spite of that decrease. The significant increases on our budget this year are in the categories of books, library materials, and electronic resources. And our emphasis is, again, on electronic resources and our mobile hotspot program. We also have a significant increase in furniture and equipment, and this is a one-time allocation so that we can finish our beautification project in the branches, as well as add mobile lockers outside of 3 of our branches. We're going to use those to help extend our curbside and after-hour pickup options. It'll kind of work like the Amazon lockers that you see outside of certain gas stations, where in theory a patron can use their library card to get their books after hours, or if they don't want to come in the building, they can retrieve them from the lockers. And some picnic tables that have hotspots on them, so it allows us to extend our Wi-Fi offerings outside of the building. And finally, we hope to purchase a maintenance van, as our team is currently using their personal vehicles. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Lee. Do you have any questions from council? Mr. Winkler?
I have one comment and one question. One, I'm glad to see, thank you for what you do at the library, and I'm glad to see a good bit of beautification going on at the York branch here. The last few days as I've ridden by and saw a lot of that going on. I think last year when y'all were here, there was some wood rot and some other stuff up around the roof area, and y'all gotten all that done, and now you've been even doing some landscaping and some other stuff, so it looks good. Thank you. And I just have a curiosity question. I was talking with a local author the other day, and I don't want to get into the details of who the author is and not asking for that, but she said she offered to donate some of her books to the library to have in the library, and she was declined. And I was wondering why we would decline a local author who's offering to give free books. But I mean, unless they were something that was really questionable book or something. So.
I can definitely follow up on that, because we typically will accept local authors and make that part of a special collection that we maintain in Rockhill. We have a collection development policy which guides what titles and how titles are selected across the system to be added. So a lot of times what we run into with people who contact us with books they've written, if they're self-published, if they don't have the Library of Congress in publication information or an ISBN, we typically don't add those, but for a lot of the new self-publishing platforms, that information does get issued, and we can add it to the local collection that we maintain at Rockhill. So if you'd like to put her in touch with me, I'll be glad to talk
Okay.
with her and find out.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Audette?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for this information, and the work you all are doing, so thank you. The one question I have, and you may have touched on it and I might have missed it, but so I'm looking at furniture and equipment from 52,000 to 345. Can you explain where that would be, again, allocating towards the furniture?
Absolutely. Okay, so, and I do apologize, I didn't bring a specific breakdown with me.
Mm-hmm.
But a portion of it would go towards, adding some freestanding, I don't know the exact term for them, the rooms that would be made into like small, meeting spaces and conference rooms. They're like the freestanding cubbies almost, but they have doors. So they would be added in our, Rockhill branch so that we can have additional meeting space for people who are studying or, having meetings, as well as a maker space so that people can come and do some 3D printing and things like that. It would also go towards the lockers outside. Those do run about 40 to 50,000 a piece.
Okay.
So that would be a significant portion of it. And the other project is the outdoor tables. And so they are essentially like, I'm gonna call them picnic tables, and they, you can wire them so that they have internet access and also have solar charging capabilities so that people, I think, can charge their phones and use their laptops and everything out there, so that if for some reason we are closed and someone is needing to use Wi-Fi, it would extend the access outside of the buildings so that they are still being served while our doors are shut. And this is just kind of one of those things that we've researched in light of the pandemic and having had been closed for a period of time.
Is that at all the locations, or is it
Yes, the
that
picnic
you're adding it?
tables are at all of them. We're hoping to try the lockers at Rockhill, Fort Mill, and Lake Wiley, because those are the locations that have specifically asked for things like this. And, you know, assuming that they work well and that they're being used, we would eventually like to extend those to all branches.
Okay. All right, thank you for the breakdown. Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about the additional library materials and electronic resources that you're requesting the increase for?
Yes. So the majority of that would go towards electronic resources, which are our databases, and then our online books, our online ebooks, our online audiobooks, streaming services, and then another portion of it would go to mobile hotspots, which is our program that we implemented, I believe, 2 years ago, where patrons can in fact check out T-Mobile hotspots for 2-week periods, and then that allows them to have internet access from home, or if they're traveling or something like that, when they wouldn't normally be able to access the internet.
How much is there a charge for that? Or do they pay anything for that?
Do we charge them?
Yeah, no?
No. We do charge replacement costs if they damage or lose the device, but we don't charge them a rental fee.
What kind of databases are you looking at adding?
There are a couple under consideration with our reference department right now. I don't have the names off the top of my head because the people who do the reference every day are the ones that are evaluating it. But it's also expanding the numbers of copies and the numbers of certs we can have with some of our online titles. The online ebook world and the publishers have been going through an evolution in their pricing model, and some are sticking with you buy an electronic title and you can let multiple simultaneous users check out. Others do one at a time and you have to digitally return the item. So some of that cost is to help us lower the hold queue and purchase additional digital copies for bestsellers, popular titles.
How does someone access those?
With your library card, there are a couple of apps that are linked through our website. One of them is called Hoopla. Libby is another, and you can use your handheld device or desktop, laptop to download or stream. It's actually super easy to use. I listen to audiobooks through the Hoopla app in my car, and
Interesting.
I was gonna say, Joel, I've got Libby on my phone.
Yeah.
And I've used it, and even my employer offers electronic books and stuff that we can check out through Libby, so
I had
As
no
long as you've
idea.
got a library card, it works really good.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And Lee just reminded me, we offer the great courses, access to that platform. We've added some additional streaming video, so we try to really bulk up our virtual library. At the same time, making sure staff that are doing selection of materials are not overlooking the physical items because that is still in demand. We just haven't seen the growth as much in the past year for that category.
So you're not sure what kind of database you,
I mean, I can tell you what time.
yeah,
they're,
not specific name, but like what type of information they're looking to add
Yeah,
or
so
what material?
primarily, the bulk of those funds go, in addition to the ebooks, they go to like our educational databases, the ones that aren't provided through South Carolina, the Discus program. So, something like Master File Premier that's gonna give you full text access to newspapers and academic journals and periodicals. A lot of that stuff falls under our research and homework help. We also, every year, buy a service that provides free online tutoring and some resources for homeschoolers and folks who are doing at-home learning. So I'd be glad to get you a breakdown of what those databases
Yeah, I'm just
are.
curious if it's additional databases or are these just increases in costs in current subscriptions that we have or additional? Okay.
So, and then there's lynda.com.
I know those things aren't cheap. That's why I'm curious.
No, they are shockingly pricey.
Yeah.
Formerly known as lynda.com is a platform that offers professional development, learning, self-directed videos, software, all kinds of training classes. We're adding that to the collection as well. It's been purchased by LinkedIn, so it falls under the LinkedIn Learning umbrella, but that's a really popular service at libraries, so we're looking to add that in the coming year.
Okay. Thank you for indulging me. I was just curious.
Any other
If you have
questions?
more questions, I mean, just reach out.
I just want to say, it looks like y'all were really busy coming up with some new and different things last year in the downtime, so.
Yeah. And we now have a somewhat thriving YouTube channel.
Several hundred videos on YouTube, and staff are uploading new content, new programs every day. So if you're looking for something in your free time, check out our YouTube channel. We also have some virtual book clubs and other programs that are happening online. We will be phasing back in-person programming after we get through our summer reading program, so we're also anxious to get back to that more traditional style of programming as well.
Thank you. We appreciate the enthusiasm that you bring to the library, and I know that we all appreciate you working within your budget and taking the opportunity to add some digital services when we had the downtime in COVID. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Next, we have Billy Dunlap, Executive Director of Rockhill, York County Convention and Visitors Bureau, to address the council regarding their budget. Welcome.
We don't look like Billy. Hopefully, we're a little better to look at. We appreciate your time tonight. Billy does send his regards. He had a meeting that he couldn't get out of tonight, so he sent us as his replacements. I'm the VP of Marketing and Communications for Visit York County.
And I'm Elizabeth Shanneman, the VP of Research and Market Analysis.
So we wanted to start out with some exciting news. We are happy to debut our 2021 Destination Guide for York County. If you haven't seen this yet, it's been hard to get into places as visitors aren't getting into our buildings just yet, but we've been doing our best to distribute it. It's a brand new style of guide. It's in a magazine form with editorial content inside, and you guys are going to be getting one at the end of this meeting, so hope you're looking forward to it.
Right, so the content for this evening we've split into two sections. In the first part, we know that there have been some questions regarding our partnership with Rockhill Prt, Recreation and Tourism. We wanted to go over how this partnership is funded by the private funds, not the public funds that come out of the county tax revenues. And then we'll move on to the communication strategy and impacts.
We really appreciate all of the funding that's been given to us for hospitality tax as well as accommodations tax, and we want to show you how that is actually put to use at Visit York County. So we'll be doing this in two installments. First, we want to start with our partnership with Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. There's been no shortage of talking about this and discussing it in front of County Council, and we really wanted to break down and just reiterate not only what the partnership is, but how it benefits York County as a whole. First, just to reiterate, Rockhill Parks, Recreation, and Tourism receives $300,000 from us. That is privately raised funds from our preferred hotel program, which includes 23 hotels. Specifically, only the Rockhill hotels inside that preferred hotel program fund this 300,000. So none in the unincorporated areas or in the Fort Mill area go to fund this program, and again, that is privately raised dollars. This goes to aid in recruiting additional events inside Rockhill PRT facilities and in Rockhill in general. What your county gets from this is actually an active role in increasing hospitality occupancy. This is done through our preferred hotel program and discussions with these events rights holders. Additionally, we get direct communication with visitors and telling them all the great things in our story that we have to offer here at York County. And it also offers us the opportunity to get data for strategy purposes so that we can maximize the public dollars that we are given. So we really want to show you how this is benefiting not just Rockhill when we are having these sports tourism events inside of these PRT facilities and inside our Rockhill hotels.
Yes, so what we have in front of us right now is some hotel demand data. This is the daily data that we've been getting since October 2020. I want to show you those spikes. Those spikes are all associated with events that occurred in and outside of PRT facilities, even those that aren't labeled here because there are just lots of events going on at the Sport and Event Center in particular has been a huge draw. This is pushing up the hotel demand, increasing those room nights, and helping hotels to maintain the rates that best reflect the value that they deliver.
This has also extremely helped us during COVID-19 to maintain when our business and leisure travel has dropped off.
Yes, in fact, these events that largely fall on the weekends, we've seen that with the hotel room nights, there has been a much smaller decrease in hotel demand over the weekends, being sustained largely by the events that are brought into the county. So I want to show you how these events are benefiting not just the Rockhill hotels, where a large amount of the events are being held near, but it's also creating ripple effects in the Fort Mill and unincorporated hotels. The data that is in front of you represents 48 hotels, 33 of which are in Rockhill. That's why you see such a larger number for the Rockhill hotels for demand. That's just where the hotel supplies are currently. But 12 hotels in the unincorporated areas and 3 in Fort Mill are also being impacted. You see where all the peaks in the Rockhill hotels, there's a corresponding peak in those unincorporated and Fort Mill hotels as well.
And we know that this is benefiting not just our hotels, but the entire county. Because if someone's coming to spend the night, they're also going to be eating here. They're also going to be going to our attractions and experiencing all that York County has to offer. That's what boils down to that $63 million in direct economic impact. That's money directly spent by non-residents in York County.
Yes, and you can see from the figures on the right that this money is being spread from food and beverage, space rental, transportation. It's not just the hotels that are benefiting. It is businesses across the county. This includes nearly $6 million in state and local tax revenue that's contributed by visitors. These are tax revenues that benefit the residents of York County but are being paid by people from outside York County. This economic impact also includes nearly over $17 million in wages. That's personal income for York County residents. That's $17 million in wages. When we apply the $32,000 median income for York County, that comes out to more than 500 full-time jobs that could be fully funded by just visitor spending in the county.
And keep in mind, this is year to date for fiscal year. We run on a July fiscal year, the same as y'all. Not only did we see 141,000.
I'm sorry, this was based on this past year?
This is
year
July
to date?
2020 to right now, to the end of March.
Okay, so 63 million at a time when last year we were shut down until basically October. And there was very few events, correct?
Yeah, so thanks to Governor McMaster and also spacing here, but they were able to allow us to have events back in at a certain capacity. 750 was really the capacity inside the Rockhill Sports and Event Center. They did a great job allowing visitors to come back in. So as we said, that business and leisure drop, you can see really this was sustaining us and funding and pushing those restaurants to be able to get people back in.
I don't mean to interrupt your presentation, but
No.
do you have any idea what that economic impact number would be at full capacity for an entire year?
So we've been working on some modeling, but it's not ready quite yet.
Okay.
Additionally, this is the first year with the partnership, so comparing a non-partnership year to a partnership year, the numbers aren't going to reflect exactly the same way, but we
Sure.
are working on that. So not only did we have 141,000 estimated hotel room nights, we also saw approximately 370,000 visitors for sports events. since July of last year. That's in 9 months, again, to reiterate Councilman Hamilton's point, during a pandemic. So what we did during this pandemic is we know that it's very difficult to get visitors to come in for that leisure and business travel. We knew that we had 370,000 people here and in front of us, so we went to go similar to what would be a conference model, right? You're going out of town for a conference, you're gonna extend your stay. We wanted to do the same thing, but with sports travel. We wanted people to understand that this may be the only vacation they're getting to take this year, especially when pocketbooks are getting a little tighter. If they have to go watch their child play basketball, go to a soccer event similar to that. So we wanted to engage a model that could approach a three-pronged communication event so that they could start looking at us as a leisure travel and not just a sports destination. This benefits the entire county, not just a stay in Rockhill when they're going directly into a facility and leaving immediately. So the way we did this is with the partnership, we're able to really garner those relationships with the parents and the families that are coming in for these sporting events. We're able to send them links to visit York County, not only to our lodging, but also to things to do in the area, suggested itineraries, our blogs, and get that information in front of them so that they're thinking about a leisure trip before they come. Then once they're here, they're going to see signage in 3 places, so you can't miss it. You're going to see our destination guide once you walk into a hotel. There's also going to be literature at the front desk with educated front desk staff that can tell you about what to do in the area. Once you get into a facility, whether it's a Rockhill Prt facility or outside of there, there's going to be signage with QR codes, whether it's a yard political type sign or an A-frame that has a QR code on it. We've all gotten used to using those, right? So the QR code is going to lead you right back to visityorkcounty.com to get additional information about what's to do nearby. We also started a new program this year with digital geofence ads. And if you're not familiar with that, that's when we can draw a virtual line around a certain place and we can send you digital ads directly to your phone. We were doing that inside Rockhill Prt facilities and also all of our preferred hotels so that the sports visitors that were here were getting leisure information sent directly to them. So in case they missed the destination guide, in case they missed the A-frame with the QR code on it, then we were also attacking them digitally. Once they left, we didn't want them to forget about us, so we were really digging into our data to look at the visitor profile of what that sports traveler looks like, what's their interest, where are they coming from, and we're sending digital ads back to them where they are as well. So this leads us into the public funding, right? So we want to talk to you about how we're using and strategizing with not only our visitor profile, but how we're utilizing those public dollars to maximize where we're sending these digital ads to.
Yes, it's very important for us to be spending our public dollars smartly in a way that's going to be most effective. You've heard Billy Dunlap, our CEO, talk about the use of mobile location data to form our visitor profiles. You're seeing a portion of that in front of you right now. We found that these 5 areas are our top markets, and from that information and from the mobile location data, we found a little bit about their interests, letting us know what content might grab their interest best. Beyond those top 5 markets, we're looking at a number of smaller but growing markets that could benefit York County from a visitor standpoint. Using the mobile location data over the years, the population and physical distance, we've created a model that separates our visitor source markets into 3 strategy groups that helps us know how, when, and where to reach these potential visitors.
When you're armed with good data, you're able to make better decisions and maximize those public dollars. We're able to really put together a comprehensive digital campaign that uses 2 strong tactics. We use additional ones, but these are the main ones that we focus our dollars on. The first is paid search. If you're not familiar with this, you've probably Googled something and there's been an ad that pops up at the top. We are currently using this to send information directly to our website that casts a large net of what people are searching for. So this doesn't mean that we're just reaching out ads to people who are directly Googling York County or directly Googling our municipalities or one of our other areas. We're sending out paid search ad keywords similar to South Carolina, things to do in South Carolina, hotels in South Carolina, hotels in Charlotte, things to do in Charlotte, attractions in Charlotte, Southeast keywords. All of those keywords are pulled together so that we can cast the largest net we can to make sure that if someone doesn't know we exist prior to this, we can reach them in that Google search. Additionally, you can see a sample of just one of our season of digital ads focusing on outdoors. We know that we had a huge increase, 124% outdoor usage over the past year over year. So really targeting those outdoor experiences throughout the county, and also using generalized ads to just give people an idea of an experience. These are not targeted on any specific area, and I know that these are things that you guys don't always see because these are not targeted to you. They're targeted to people who are outside of our county, specifically outside 50 and 75 miles and in those target areas, so that they are interested in coming. To go hand in hand with the digital campaigns, we also choose targeted publications in those areas where the data reflects. We're not just throwing a coin out and hoping that a magazine works, right? Or an online publication works. We're strategically placing these in specific areas. And these are 3 examples of what we've done this fiscal year. We've run a 3rd-page ads, weekly ads in Free Times Columbia, which goes directly to that millennial couple that we're looking to have an outdoor experience here, and then additionally go on the brew trail or the taste trail and experience all we have to offer. Also, Raleigh Magazine is another great aspect for us. When we've lost that business and leisure travel in that market, we're able to remind them that there's family experiences here for them to do, that they can come in not just for business travel, but make an entire vacation out of it. And that's featuring Kings Mountain State Park if you've never been there. It's beautiful. Additionally, WSPA TV in Greenville was a great new avenue for us for advertising this year. It was our first time advertising in a television market, and this was done with a host who visited here over several days, and they ran this ad 5 days in a row with different experiences that featured the entire county. Also, if you're not in the PR or marketing world, you may have never heard of earned media. Earned media is something that we do to absolutely maximize our public dollars in the best way possible. This is free advertising dollars for us. What we do is pitch our local media or travel writers to really create an experience that they want to write about. There's 2 forms of this. So travel writers are really ones that you'll see in Travel and Leisure, Condé Nast, Garden and Gun, Southern Living, popular things like that. There's also a lot of smaller publications that have really strong legs as well. I research those names and send them pitches with things to do, and then they come here with an itinerary, and then they go back and write their article about it after we've hosted them here. We also have focused heavily on our local media, and by local I mean the Charlotte area. We know that's where the dominant eyes are. When I started in this role a year ago, I pulled all of our advertising dollars out of Charlotte. We know that they are probably not spending the night as much as the other markets that Elizabeth showed you earlier. So we wanted to focus specifically on an earned media campaign in Charlotte so that people can discover their dollars spend the same way as anybody else, right? But we wanted to make sure that we were not spending advertising dollars specifically in the Charlotte market. We've gotten great success with Ebenezer Park thanks to the beautiful renovations there. Axios Charlotte did a article on it that had more than 15,000 views. It's formerly Charlotte Agenda, if you're familiar with them. And we were there on Friday with Wilson's World on WCCB, up bright and early, sunrise at 6:15. So I wanted to take you guys on a little experiment. You guys are our travel writers. You've decided to come visit York County, and I wanted to show you what we would do for an itinerary and what this looked like when we brought this writer in back in August of last year. We started in Kings Mountain, and then we went to Kings Mountain National Military Park. We went to Kings Mountain State Park following that, and then we headed out to Lake Wiley to see Papa Doc's Shore Club with a fish sandwich as large as your head and a milkshake that was absolutely delicious. Then we headed to our hotel, Courtyard Marriott in Kingsley, and then we headed out to Canaan Zipline Canopy Tour where you can zip over the Catawba River. Additionally, we headed down to downtown Rockhill to experience shopping, culture, arts, and we ended with a burger at Kaibi and Slow Play. Next day, we got up and we headed out to Southtown Wake Park where we experienced cable wakeboarding, which is one of our funnest new attractions that we have to offer. Back to Fort Mill, we got to meet Smokin' Chef Ed over at Pucker Butt, and then we went back to the hotel for a little rest, and then we went to the Greenway where you got to experience 2,100 acres of the outdoors. Are you tired yet? So you head back to the hotel again, and right outside your hotel, you're able to go steps to beautiful restaurants, dining, attractions right there in Kingsley. Day 3, we started with yoga at TGK right there on Lake Wiley, a different way to experience our beautiful lake. And then we headed down to downtown York to experience shopping and ended with our farms at Black's Peaches with the best pimento cheese sandwich around, and finally strawberry ice cream at Bush and Vine Farm. So this is just an example of what we do with these riders when we're here. It's a jam-packed 3 days full. Sometimes we don't get 3 days and we have to collapse that itinerary, but this is truly a sample of what we do with them while they're here. Additionally, we give them social media links back to our partners' websites, and then they put those back on their stories when they go ahead and post them. These are a few examples of some earned media that we've done over the past years that I feel like are really notable. Courtney's Barbecue was featured in Charlotte Magazine, which was a great write-up with great photography from them, specifically from my relationship with their editor there. Wilson's World was just at Ebenezer Park. City of York was on USA Today's 10 Best for their cultural. That was a relationship that my predecessor had with USA Today. We've talked about the Yoko Taste Trail on WBTV's QC Life. We have a great relationship with them. And I don't know if you heard about it, but Counter and the Friendship Nine were on CBS Evening News a few months ago. And that was as a direct result of a travel writer that we brought in for Eater, Carolinas. CBS Evening News confirmed that we were the reason that they picked up this piece, which was great exposure for downtown Rockhill. So, all of this to say, we have a
Quick
few-
question before you
Yes,
move on from
sorry.
that. Do you have any idea the number of impressions that earned media gets, or what the value of something like that is?
Yeah, so we actually utilize a program called Cision, which is a leading expert in those impressions. It's really hard to measure what the ad dollar is on those, but we know by placement about what those impressions are, and we can run reports for you
Okay.
individually. There's so many stories a year that it would be hard to do an overall estimate on that.
Right. I'm just trying to. I just want to understand the value of it. Like, what would if we were paying for that number of impressions, what would the cost of that exposure actually be? So
Which story?
all of them.
So it's very hard to put a number on, and in fact, leading experts are saying that you should stop putting an ad dollar equivalency to earned media, because it's not as accurate as you think it is. The Nielsen ratings can vary depending on if it's an online article or a published article in a magazine, and the shelf life on it. So some leading experts, I just watched a webinar actually that said that we should go away from using the ad equivalency for that. And it's also hard because, as you saw in those past articles, none of them say Visit York County, right? None of them go out and say Visit York County did this, or Visit York County is X. It's about our partners. We have switched from a model of event marketing to destination marketing. We are not marketing just individual communities, we're marketing York County as a whole, and experience as a whole of what York County is, and that makes up of our individual partners. So that brings us to our website. Our website content and communication strategy has directly pushed back to our partners. We want them to get the exposure, not necessarily us. We revamped our website in April of 2019 and added a ton of listings. Our job is to make sure that we have the most comprehensive database of every restaurant, attraction, hotel, and shopping experience you can find. And let me tell you, for a staff of just myself and one other person, it is an extreme undertaking to make sure that 250 restaurants are up to date at all times. We have every shopping up to date, and we do our best to make sure that that's happening.
Yes, and we're seeing a lot of payoff in our website data. Overall web traffic has more than doubled over the past 3 years. Just year to date in this fiscal year, we've seen more than 408,000 paid views. So when we're talking about driving traffic to our partners, we do this through having these partner info pages. I'm going to be referencing these in the next couple of slides. Our partner info pages are listings on our website. We have hundreds of them, and they represent everything from Peachtree Orchard in Filbert up to the most widely known attraction in the county, Carowinds.
And you can see, I know that a lot of times we talk about how do we get that direct ROI from an ad to an unincorporated area. That is extremely difficult to narrow down, right? How do I tell you that somebody who clicked on our website is absolutely going to go to Filbert? But what I can tell you is that overall, our advertising dollars are working, and this is a direct showing of that.
Yes, you can see in the chart that the amount of traffic going to our partner info pages has greatly increased, and a key role was the paid search advertising, really promoting that growth. Just for the accommodations pages, 65% of traffic came from the paid search advertising.
And you can see, again, I know we probably sound like a broken record by this point, but the story is really to get people to our partner listings. We want that information to be first and foremost for a visitor when they're coming here and attracting them.
Yes, and the Google Analytics data is showing that it is working. About 80% of the traffic that goes to our partner pages ends up clicking out to our partner websites or clicking to call them directly. For attractions, it's 69% of the website traffic is going out to those partner pages. For restaurants, it's 99%. That's huge. And for accommodations, it's about 82%. I want to show you there, that Book Now button on that preferred hotels website, those are the links they're clicking in order to get out to our partner pages, to get the information directly from the horse's mouth, allow them to put their best foot forward. So, as Brianna said, we've been greatly increasing the amount of partner information pages that we have on our website. In the last fiscal year, there's been a 22% increase in the number of pages devoted to partner information. That pales in comparison to the amount of traffic that's being sent to those pages. The traffic has increased more than 125% year over year in the last fiscal year.
And we're reaching them in multiple destinations. This is not just the ones that we're focused on. You can see the extreme reach from across the country that visitors are coming to our website for information.
Yes, those target markets that we identified that are largely in the southeastern United States, traffic from those states has more than doubled over the past year. We've seen significant increases throughout the country. And in our international market, the traffic from international markets, primarily Europe and Southeast Asia, has increased more than 50% year over year.
And I promise you, we don't have family in all these places, just clicking on it. So really, we're training our visitors on our website to make sure that they are thinking in a way of booking a vacation. This is extremely clear from our destination guides, the literature we showed you at the beginning of this presentation. Our requests from outside of York County have increased 45% over the first 4 months of 2020. And they're coming from those target markets that we're really sending our advertisements from: Columbia, Greenville, Anderson, and also Spartanburg. So we know that this is working because they're coming to our website and requesting those destination guides and then planning a trip.
Yes, and not only are we reaching those target markets that we have those highly detailed plans for, but also the markets that we're keeping an eye on, like the metro areas of New York, Philadelphia, and Chicago have greatly increased over the past year for visitor guide requests just in the first couple of months of 2021.
That's because they're all looking to move down here.
Yeah, actually a lot of relocation guide requests as well.
So we do have destination guides for y'all tonight, but additionally, we're here to answer any questions about the public funding that's on the table.
Thank you, ladies. We appreciate the information. Are there any questions from council?
I have a few. So at our last meeting, this was somewhat new to me. Robert talked a lot about the folks coming out to Blacks and Bush and Vine, and I've always thought of Bush and Vine as where my wife goes to buy produce, and not really as one of our destinations. But I've noticed in your presentation, some of those places were referenced. Can you tell me a little bit about agri-tourism in general and how that kind of feeds into your strategy of being more destination marketing rather than event marketing?
Absolutely. So a well-rounded, the best part about being a county destination marketing organization is that we're well-rounded, right? So the farms are a huge piece of what we do. Specifically with U-Pick season, it's a huge draw out of Charlotte. That is that amenity where we're talking about you can't get inside the city. We're different from what they're having to offer. So specifically, we do U-Pick seasons. You'll see that inside the destination guide where we talk about several of them. We also do blogs on that and focus on it on our website. And then also when it comes to fall farm season, that's really the bread and butter of where we turn on those advertisements and talk about that and send those ads out. For 2 years in a row, we did a video out of the three, I call them the triad, Windy Hill, Bush and Vine, and Black's Peaches. And we did a video on Discover SC's Facebook page, which was a boosted post that talked about our Fall Farm Fun, and it got more than 5,000 views. People are so attracted to what we have to offer here, and that little quadrant of our county showcases more of that agritourism than anywhere else. It's fantastic.
Yes, and we've been using Uber Media to track a couple of attractions around the county to see how those attraction groups are performing. We have a couple that we put in a group called Farm, and those areas, while other attractions have seen a decrease in visitation year over year, those wide outdoor spaces have actually seen quite an increase. So we've been devoting a good portion of our strategy to getting that out during COVID-19.
And I don't want to interrupt Joel's, but can you tell us about, I can't find it in on my app. I probably could if I looked, but I got something else I want to ask when it's my turn. But can you tell us a little bit about the Agri-Tourism tour that you do each year that's coming up as well?
Oh,
So-
yeah, Ag and Art is less
Yes.
than 2 weeks away.
Yes.
Get excited. Ag and Art is back. We have 18 farms this year. Visit York County helped to establish that in 2012. And now it's a statewide tour. It's the largest free agriculture and artisan tour in the country. Traditionally, we have 22 farms. It's back down to 18 just due to COVID concerns for some of the farms and being able to maintain that. But we're so thrilled to do that. 2 weekends. The first weekend will be the east side, June 5th and 6th, and the second weekend will be 12th and 13th. So we're excited to have everybody back out on our farms, and that information is also on our website.
Yes, and all the while we'll be monitoring that visitation with Uber Media, taking a look at those visitor groups that are arriving so we can better understand how to talk to those groups and keep them coming.
How does what y'all are doing compare to other markets and other counties and what they're doing?
So that's been a very unique thing for me. I'm 3 years in on this, and I have quickly learned we are like no other DMO in the state. While we are not a traditional beach or big city destination, we are finding our way with the balance of sports tourism and what that beast does for our destination, and then how we bring in the rest of the leisure traffic. Sports tourism is something tangible that we can measure and know that they're coming in and know that that ROI is there, and we're figuring out how to marry the leisure side with that sports tourism side, which is kind of the geofencing of what we're doing. I'm sure Billy said it before, but every other destination in the state looks to us as a model for sports tourism, and I hope that they start to look at us as a model of how we have turned sports tourism into leisure tourism in the coming years.
Yes, and as we look at the hotel performance in the county week to week, month to month, and comparing it to what the state puts out for their own hotel performance, we're seeing that in York County, hotels have suffered less than the state overall and have been able to maintain their occupancy and rates a little bit better, largely due to, in talking to my colleagues across the country, this is not my first DMO that I'm working for, so I have a bit of a network, and they're struggling much more. Those places that are more densely populated have been having a much harder time. Being able to have all these attractions that are outside that people feel safe to go to has been a huge benefit in keeping our hospitality community above water.
One question I had, y'all talked about earned media.
Yes.
And one of the things I found most interesting was the news on Counter Restaurant in Rockhill. Is there any way to put any type of dollar value on what that brings in?
It's so fascinating. Cision is even having a hard time with it. For some reason, I've had 2 meetings with them to try and really nail down the impact of that piece. What I can tell you is that it got shared in 54 markets across the country. So the way that TV works is the national news will run it. Affiliates in other cities pay to be a CBS affiliate, and after that story runs, it goes in a database that any other city that is a CBS affiliate can pick it up. And so what we were able to see is that 54 other markets picked up, and we're able to talk about the Friendship 9 and Rockhill and York County.
I see that a lot, like the Football City USA.
Yes, sir.
That was in USA Today. I think it was 7 or 8 years ago. And yet it still brings people to the area.
When we launched our new website in 2019, Football City USA was something we added to our website. And not just mentioning those, but we also slipped in the other county notable that may not be Football City USA. But we saw 30,000 page views on that page after Benjamin Watson said that he was from Football City USA on Sunday Night Football. And additionally, it's continued to drive traffic for us. We did a blog series with several of them talking about what their favorite things to do are when they come back home. So really reaching out and connecting them with not just being football players, but what they love about their hometown and being our celebrities, our celebrity ambassadors. And we hope to continue that blog series as well.
That's good. Thank you.
So first of all, thank you for this information, you guys. Very, very good presentation. Excellent. Couple of things. When we look at, and I've looked back in the past history, of the group, and as from a budgetary standpoint, et cetera, when we look at like 1.3 million in 2019, and then we kind of roll back to last week, and we talked about, the dollar value, what we were estimating. I think you would end up with like 1.5 million, and that would kind of be afterwards of what I had proposed. You know, that 1.5 million is a phenomenal number, okay? That's a phenomenal. The reason I want to say this is because I want to thank you guys, and I want to thank Billy. The program that Billy put together, you know, along with all your help, the Destination Marketing Fee Program, has been a win-win situation for the county. It allowed us to look at this opportunity to support other areas based on the fact that we'd be still looking at 1.5 million that you would all be getting afterwards. But again, I want to thank Billy for his hard work on that program. You know, and again, I just want to give a shout out because this gives us an opportunity to look at other ways of funding things. So thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We got a couple questions. What is the definition of a partner?
Of a partner for what do you?
Well, you've used that word like 40 times, so
Sure.
what's
So
the
we have
definition of it?
We have lots of partners, and I can go through them. So we have a Partners in Tourism Foundation that is a private foundation. Those partners come on with a funding model, in kind or financial, and that is through a private foundation. Additionally, we have hospitality partners, which are attractions, restaurants, and lodging. So if you are working in the hospitality industry, you are a partner of ours. Now, how extreme you would like to go with that partnership is really up to that person. And we sometimes force those hands, and I get out there and make those relationships, and we're out there working on those, but a partnership is really with anybody. There's no dollar amount to that. Additionally, we have the partnership with Rockhill Prt. And that comes in several forms. We work together outside of the partnership dollar value and with the dollar value and where it has gone to this point, with those privately raised funds.
So what is the difference? I'm just going to use two local restaurants from my district. What is the difference in a Papa Doc's and a Thai Fusion?
Sure. So really when you're looking at, I can kind of relate this back to events so it's more easy to understand. When we are putting events on our website, it is meant to be visitor friendly, something that's easy to access, something that's easy to find, easy for them to understand, that they know that they can sit in with their family and it's going to be a great experience. We can't go to all 250 restaurants every single year and understand the opportunity that they have. There's obviously, I hope you would see the value in a tourist draw to Papa Doc's and what it is. And they're also a great partner with us. They were on the Yoko Taste Trail last year and worked hand in hand with us. And when we bring media in to be able to go there, they're also a great partner to make sure that they have a great opportunity. We know that there's lots of restaurants that aren't as touristy as Papa Doc's. I can think of NC Noodle Bar off the top of my head in Rockhill that offer those really authentic experiences. And they also offer a great value to our visitors, which is why we put places like Ebenezer Grill, Bagel Boat, Greek Grill on the Yoko Taste Trail, so that it's not just those extreme public tourist places, but also places that are authentic that all of us have come to know and love as well.
I just want to kind of reiterate what Councilman Audette has said. I think that you've convinced me that the CVB is well on its way, and I think it frees us up to use that $300,000 that's remaining for other things. And I think y'all have made a great presentation. I think you're great salespeople. I can spot a salesperson. I think y'all are two of them. So, but I just think it does free us up, and I don't feel quite as concerned. Not that I was real concerned, because every year that we've reduced the funding, we've come from $1.2 million to $800,000 down to $300,000, and I think this is just kind of the final little straw that probably doesn't mean a whole lot either way. But I think y'all have come a long way, and one of my concerns is that I've talked with the some of the people that you do advertise for, some of the people that you do market, specifically the fishing tournament, the South Carolina state fishing tournament, and in talking with them, a fear has been instilled in them over the last few weeks now that they will lose the marketing that you've been given to them. But I feel like with the accommodations tax and the partnerships that you've got, that I don't think you're pulling the rug out from under those partners that you have.
Can I speak to that about
Sure.
the fishing tournament? So specifically, we can't use accommodations tax on events, so we can't fund them any longer. If we are cut the $300,000, that money is specifically used for events outside of Rockhill PRT facilities to be used in those unincorporated areas that we've talked about, which is great for the fishing tournaments, right, in that area. So that kind of funding cannot go there.
So does the funding that we give you, so from my understanding, what you've actually funded, you've paid for the scholarships you've paid for the prizes in those, when first place fisherman gets a prize and it's from the CVB. So is that something that you're not able to do on your own? Is that,
So hospitality tax is specifically going to fund events. There are different values of different events that we bring to Lake Wiley for fishing tournaments. So I can't speak directly to that one, but and what our budget looks like for prizes in that format, but it's going to bid and recruit and bring large fishing tournaments as well that are past just the state one to Lake Wiley and to that area.
so you're saying that you
hospitality
can't,
no.
you're saying that you can't advertise, that you can't market that anymore?
Well, advertising and marketing are different from bid recruitment to bring events here. So hospitality tax has to specifically be used to bring events to York County, to the unincorporated areas.
And you can't use the other funding to bring events?
Accommodations tax is meant to be used for advertising and marketing.
So you can't advertise an event that's coming?
We don't advertise events, we advertise a destination.
I think that's kind of semantics, but I understand, but thank you though.
Any other questions?
My background is in marketing. I did marketing and advertising for 10 years. It is two completely different things. The biggest thing as far as advertising, you can always advertise an event. But advertising the event versus hosting the event, it's just the way that the money is spent is a different budget. Whenever you talk about, one of the examples that you used was a magazine article or a magazine ad, you want to see that return on investment. That is more of your direct advertising versus your marketing. Your marketing is your branding and bringing everything together. So I just want to make sure that that is clearly known.
And forgive me if it wasn't clear in what I was saying. So we use the hospitality tax dollars for bid recruitment of events. We don't advertise the events that are coming here besides possibly just like a listing on our website. Those are events that aren't particularly for outside visitors to attend, right? So something like a concert, or something like a festival, things of that nature. So our advertising dollars that you guys trust us with from the accommodations tax from those unincorporated hotels, those are spent on the digital ad campaigns that we discussed in the presentation.
And I'm gonna say, I may be misspeaking or misunderstanding here, but I appreciate all the comments this evening, and I've got some questions and stuff, but I don't think this evening is the place for us to discuss, argue, or vote for your budget tonight. Tonight is the place for us to ask you questions so that we can make that decision at our next meeting. So I want to be careful that we don't get into a whole big discussion of your budget and where we want to cut it or fund it or whatever else tonight. This is not the vote that's before us tonight. There is no vote before us. It's informational for y'all to bring stuff to us, and I appreciate that. And I want us to just be careful in how we address this situation and follow this tonight. I do want to say, a couple of things that I noticed that y'all said was, one of the things that helped the county is that a lot of the other counties don't have outdoor attractions that are available. Most of those outdoor attractions are in the unincorporated area. And looking at that, I've got the Visit York County app on my phone. I used to joke when I was campaigning, it was re-election time, that I could see what events were going on in the area, so I could go see where to campaign on weekends and stuff. But, I just scrolled through there and looked, and I've got to, we have fixed it now at the county level, but I'd give y'all a little props on something that the county didn't do. And scrolling through, looking at all the partners y'all have listed on there and stuff, Worth Mountain was on there.
I checked after last
Yes.
council meeting. I was sweating.
It was,
I was hoping
it was not
our
on, it was
website.
not on the county's website, but it was on y'all's website.
Yeah.
So thank you. Kings Mountain, some of these others are, all in the unincorporated areas, that we need to, and again, I'm gonna try not to get into it. We'll discuss this more in the vote, but that's why, in my opinion, certain council members are looking at it wrong. We need to make sure we continue to fund you that $300,000 so that those things can be marketed and done properly with that. Again, tonight's not the time to get into the discussion back and forth on it, but I wanted to voice my support for you keeping that funding this evening.
Thank you very much.
I think a lot of council members have gotten a little bit outside of that. I would like to keep us on track. We have been, kept these ladies for 30 minutes. Are there any other questions that pertain to, these ladies can answer that?
I have
And
one,
we
but I
are
wanted to
well
ask
versed
one.
in the budget, so if you do have a question, we're happy to answer that.
Mr. Roddy, you have any questions?
Yeah, I just have a couple comments. I know I've been a huge supporter of the CVB ever since I've been on council, and I make no bones about it. When Bennett Brown was here, when Arvis was doing it, when Lisa was doing it, and even when Billy's been here. But here recently, I know a lot of things have come into question about the CVB, how you guys handle business, what you actually do. And I was just thinking back, you know, we've supported a lot of events throughout York County outside of the CVB. You know, I just made a little short list like Summerfest, Strawberry Festival, Christmasville, Red, White, and Boom, you know, some of those events. And make no bones about it, the $300,000 that fosters that partnership with Rockhill. My question to you ladies is, which events that Rockhill's doing that wouldn't be able to come here if we didn't have that partnership? Because what we're basically looking at is giving them $300,000 for us to advertise at their events. Am I reading that
Well,
correct?
so Councilman, I first want to iterate that this is, the money that we get from York County does not foster the check that we give to Rockhill Prt. Those funds are directly raised from private dollars from our destination marketing fee program, that 2% fee that was started, and it only comes from the Rockhill hotels. There are unincorporated hotels and Fort Mill hotels that also raise those funds for us, but the $300,000 only comes from the privately raised 2% fee from those hotels. I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Yes, no tax revenues go towards that.
And maybe you ladies covered this before I got here. So what exactly?
And we did. We extensively covered it, and I'm
Okay.
happy to go over really the benefits. It's more than just advertising inside those facilities. We're getting data from those visitors and being able to target them back to extend a leisure vacation.
Okay, I'll reach out, and I know I missed a portion of what you guys have presented, and I'll definitely reach back out before we make any decisions concerning your budget.
And as for the list of specific events that are going in those facilities, I'm not sure, you know, there are relationships that Andy Clinton, our VP of Sales in the office, brought in to the partnership with Rockhill Prt that allowed, Phenom Hoops is one I can think of, also Big Shots, that allowed those partnerships to really foster inside the facility. The facility is obviously gorgeous, you've been in there, and it sells itself to an extent, but we have absolutely brought relationships to the table that have allowed new events and larger events to happen. So those relationships were there and were helping with the beginning of this partnership. I can speak off the top of my head on those.
Okay. So I do have one quick question. The marketing, destination marketing fee program, you know, based on, you know, you mentioned that there was revenue that went to Rockhill and, you know, from that pool. You know, that program was put together in order to help fund and support them. So how was it defined how that revenue would be spent? Is it something that can that then be allocated out for whatever, however you want to support the community?
It's meant to drive additional attendance back into our hotels, overnight stays. It's the same, we look at it the same as accommodations tax, right? If the hotels are doing all this work to give us this funding, we want to make sure that we're putting additional rooms back in there for them. So the Fort Mill hotels, that goes to support events that we're bringing into the Fort Mill area. They're seeing direct benefits from that, as well as the benefits from events that are happening in the Rockhill area.
So support events such as you advertise them or?
So again, we don't advertise them, we bring in bid fees for them. One of them would be the Mrs. MRS, North and South Carolina pageant that we were able to bring here from Charlotte. That went inside the facilities, forgive me, it's not Heritage, River Place. River Place. So that was a huge economic benefit with the women staying in these hotels for multiple nights. that goes directly back to Fort Mill. Additionally, some of the fishing tournaments, they're able to stay in Fort Mill hotels. I know the one we had this past weekend, they were staying in the true Fort Mill off of Exit 88, which was relying on business travel when they opened. So being able to give them that sports traffic for the 2% fee that they're giving us is really helping them stay afloat as they just brandly open.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do. So partly by our own creation, we've kind of created a bit of a complicated funding mechanism that y'all are put into a position to work with, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear. So you mentioned a moment ago use of the HTAC dollars with regards to the fishing tournament was the specific example, and how those funds are used for bid recruitment. So is the fishing tournament an example of an event that we have to bid on to bring?
And I don't know that specific fishing tournament. I can tell you an example. NCAA has a collegiate academy that fosters, it's a live bid period for these college coaches to come in and watch these top high school players battle it out and do all these events. This was scheduled for the first time to come to York County, and we were splitting it between Winthrop and Rockhill Prt facilities. That is a bid fee of upwards of $50,000 that we're able to put up and put forward. Additionally, FBU Top Gun that we saw out at South Point High School multiple times, bid fees in that aspect, that's what we use those HTAX dollars for. We do Andy puts together a presentation to them to explain why our destination is the best, and it gives us additional exposure in that sports world, right? If we're being listed as a venue on the NCAA website, that's huge exposure for what we are as a sports destination. Same with what FBU Top Gun was. So bid fees like that go to supporting bringing those events here, and in turn it helps them run their event while they're here.
So basically, without the funding for the event fee, the event doesn't come here.
Correct.
And so,
They're not coming here because they love us.
Yes, yes. Having an
but once they
attractive
come here, I'm
destination
sure
is
they
part of
fall
it.
in love.
But when it comes down to choosing a destination for an event, those event rights holders are largely looking at who's able to put up the bid fee. And it makes us competitive with other destinations.
And this is what part of that $300,000 of the private funds goes to for Rockhill Prt. We're able to go to those conferences and get in front of those faces to be competitive, to bring them here, so that we're not just bringing in events where people are driving down from Charlotte, they're flying in on into Charlotte Douglas Airport, or they're driving in from multiple states away, so that we're truly getting those out-of-state visitors to really target and come back for leisure travel.
One more thing, sorry.
All right,
Whenever I was coaching out at Manchester, they had that Harry Potter game.
The Quidditch.
Quidditch, yeah. I know that came in. That was NCAA as well. Do you have any stats on anything like that as far as?
I know there's a photo in our office of it. I look at it every day.
I was there. I have some in my phone that's
Yeah,
somewhere.
that was before we were using the economic impact calculator that we're currently using to measure those events.
Where's it at now? We did it once.
Salt Lake City.
Is it in Salt Lake City?
I believe so.
That was prior to both of us being in this office. I apologize.
thank you, ladies, for all the information. I just have one question regarding your budget. Other than the county contribution for HTAX, how much HTAX do you get from the city of Rock Hill, Fort Mill, TDK, just combined from those municipalities?
We have our finance director here. Yes, please. This is Rebecca Artis. She's VP of Finance.
Good evening. I'm Rebecca Artis, and as I said, I'm the VP of Finance and Administration. So we collect funding from all the different municipalities, and then you guys from the county. So Fort Mill, town of Fort Mill gives us accommodations tax where they're 30% designated.
Right, my question is restricted to the HTAX,
Okay,
hospitality
I was
tax.
going to get there, but so for HTAX, we get funding from from TKK, we get approximately $8,000. From Clover, approximately $6,000, and then Rock Hill, Fort Mill, and York, we get accommodations tax.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate all the information.
Could I ask the other council members that represent Rock Hill and maybe the ladies one question? On my Visit York County app, there's a partner on here that when I was scrolling through looking, it says Hill Rocks, and it's on 140 East Main Street, and the picture is a whole bunch of, looks like amethyst or different carved in skulls?
It's a rock shop, a rare rock shop. They can also do unique jewelry. They're in the bottom of what the Silk
Okay,
Club
I
was.
just never saw that, and I was like, what is this place?
I actually
We
just got
taste
my
all
ring
kinds of
size.
kinds.
Yes,
So
I actually just got my ring size there. They have a variety of services, and dealing with gems is one of them.
we
This-
appreciate
Thank you
the
very
time. We
much.
do have
A lot of good
destination
information.
sorry,
We
we're gonna-
appreciate that. I think we're gonna move on. Thank you,
Thank
folks.
you.
Oh, next up, we have Sabrina Gast, York County Coroner, to address the council regarding her budget.
I didn't know what it was. It had lines everywhere on the page.
Good evening. I hope that y'all are all doing well. Once again, you see me here before you. We did put together just a short PowerPoint for you guys. I know I'm not gonna belinger the fact that, I have requested staff again this go around for this budget. I did ask for one office staff person. We have not added an office staff person since 2004. And I asked for 2 full-time deputy coroner investigators to help us with the caseload that we are seeing in the county. And it's my understanding that county management has recommended my office person, but not my investigators. So I'm here to plead my case to show you why we need those positions in the office. I also have the reason that we were running a little bit behind today is IT has decided to block some Gmail addresses in our emails today. And I was unable to we had our reaccreditation audit yesterday, and I was waiting on a draft email of the recommendations, and we couldn't get it through the Gmail account that they were trying to send it from. So I have it pictured for you. I will give it to Karen, and she can get it out to you as soon as that full report comes through. I'll certainly give that to you as well. So this is, I have sent you similar information. I think that all of you have gotten the forms that I've sent you over the last little bit about the caseload increase and what we're seeing. This is just from 2008 to 2020. We had a large increase of cases last year between 2019 and 2020. And I know that a lot of people would like to accredit that to COVID, but it is not accredited to COVID cases. It is just a blanket increase in the number of cases that we're having to deal with. Let me also explain that when I say cases, I mean we had 2,435 deaths in York County that our office investigated in some way, shape, or form. That a case equals a death. That is what we deal with in the office. So everything that we taught, the numbers that I'm talking about are actual people that have died that my office has investigated in some way, shape, or form, okay? So that was that. Because of the accreditation that we hold, we are one of 6 offices in the state that hold a national accreditation for death investigators through the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners. That is a voluntary accreditation that our office went through 6 years ago actually, because we were due for a reaccreditation last year during COVID, so everything got kind of pushed back. But that accreditation is something that we have chosen to do because I feel like the citizens of York County deserve the very best of the best, and that's what we get when we are accredited. We have staff that is meeting and surpassing national standards for death investigation. So that is one of the things that drives how we do our investigations. One part of that is that we have to have a forensic pathologist, a certified forensic pathologist, to do any case that has the potential to go to court. So your homicide cases, our baby cases, all have to be done by a certified forensic pathologist. We do not have a certified forensic pathologist in York County, South Carolina. Our pathology group, although they can do forensic cases for us and have done forensic cases for us for as long as I've been here and prior to that, they are not forensic certified. They are not qualified to be forensic certified, and they are not interested in hiring a forensic certified pathologist at this time. We have approached them about that because we knew that that was going to be an issue. But they have chosen at this point just to keep their general pathology group together. Quite frankly, it's because of money. Forensic certified pathologists are low in the numbers in the United States. There's only about 650 across the United States. They don't make a lot of money. They spend a lot of time in court, and they have really nasty cases that they're doing. The general pathology groups are sitting in hospitals, overseeing labs, and doing surgical specimens and making lots of money. So it's a money issue as to why we don't have a lot of forensic certified pathologists. So I just wanted to throw that out there. The closest forensic certified pathologist that we have access to is in Charleston, South Carolina. The reason for that is that we have multiple forensic pathologists in the state of South Carolina. Our actual closest one is in Columbia. We reached out to them when we knew that this was going to be an issue. They did not want to host us there and see our forensic cases there unless we were willing to bring them everything. We cannot afford to take every autopsy to Columbia. We just can't do it. I don't have the staff. That it would be an astronomical number to do that as far as transport costs, autopsy costs. So our next best option was to go to the Medical University of South Carolina, which is in Charleston. It's a 3.5-hour trip one way. So we choose to go to, we have to go to Charleston for the forensic cases. And I know y'all read the news, so you know that our forensic cases have skyrocketed in the last 9 months. I spent 2.5 days in Charleston for our mass shooting event that we had last month. So those are cases that had to be done in Charleston. So we're seeing, and when we have those cases, not only do we have to transport the decedent, we're paying at the transporters to take them from York County, traveling 3.5 hours, sitting in Charleston while they're waiting on the autopsies to be done, and driving that decedent back into York County that evening so that families can proceed with their funeral arrangements. I can't send a forensic case with just a transport driver. So not only is the transport driver going, I'm also having to send a deputy down. The reason that we have to send a deputy down is because the forensic pathologists in Charleston do not allow law enforcement officers in their autopsy suite. So if we need photographs, if there's evidence to be collected, projectiles, anything, clothing that we're bringing back for that decedent, it has to be a deputy in order to travel with that body, to bring that body back, to maintain a chain of custody in those forensic cases. So I'm also taking a deputy out of the county to travel for that time and be out of the county for that time period as well. So that impacts our staffing here in the county. We currently function with 3 coroners on time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is a 24-hour shift of a primary person. We have a backup person that pulls a week long of call. That is the person that goes out if the primary person is already engaged in an investigation. And then there's a supervisor on call. Probably in the last 3 months, there has been, I can't count on the number of times on my hands where all 3 of my investigators have been out at one time. Because the county is growing, the case number is growing. You have a decedent in Hickory Grove, you have a decedent in Fort Mill, and you have a traffic fatality on the interstate. Nobody can wait. You can't leave them laying there while we're trying to clear up the investigator that's in Hickory Grove. That's not acceptable. I know that you wouldn't want your loved one laying there for any longer than they need to, and I certainly am not going to tolerate that in the office. So we have to have those 3 deputies on call to cover those cases. The slide that you have here is just showing you the number of autopsies and how they've increased in the last several years. In the blue is the transport cases. So those are cases that are actually being picked up by our transport company and being transported either from the scene of where they have died or transporting them down to MUSC for autopsy for us. We have already gone through $150,000 of our budget, and we did that in December for transport money. So we had to come to you and say, I've got to have money to be able to transport these decedents. I do not see that decreasing, and it is not, if we're continuing with the trend that we're continuing, it is not stopping. We have been full steam ahead, full force since January 1st. So those are just kind of a general increase in how our transport costs have increased, our autopsy costs our numbers have increased for the consults. the autopsies. We still do autopsies here in York County, but those are the uncomplicated cases. Those are the gentleman that died in the bed and he was having chest pain last night and we need to do an autopsy because he doesn't have any medical history. It's those kind of cases that we're doing here in York County. We're not doing the forensic cases. So we still are doing cases here. We are not meeting national standards in some of those cases. National standards indicate that we have to do autopsies on all suicides. I can't do that. There is no way that I can do that. I can't send the number of suicides that we're having in the county, which would mean a forensic case would have to go to Charleston. I can't do that. I don't have the budget to do that. So we're in a pickle, just as a short.
Serena, before you leave
Yes.
that slide, could I ask a couple of questions?
You can, and y'all please bear with me. I had a 90-pound lab launch off of my eye this morning, so it's kind of scratched, and I'll have to get a little bit closer to the slides. Yes.
What is a consult? So explain that to me. I understand an autopsy, but what's a consult?
A consult is an external exam where they're not actually doing any cutting. So we do consults on our traffic fatalities where they're documenting the injuries that are there. They may be, and they will go in and photograph injuries. We'll draw blood for toxicology and that sort of thing. So you're not actually doing any incisions on the decedent. You're doing an external exam. So if the pathologist is writing a report for that, then they are charging us for that.
Okay, because I noticed those went up 95 from one year to the next.
Yes.
And
That increase is largely due to the number of suicides that we're having. Usually we do consults on our suicides.
okay, I noticed the autopsies that stay here in the county didn't go up a whole lot, but the autopsies that you had to send to MUSC went up by 30, which is almost double. And the other thing that was kind of weird is the total number, if you add autopsies, both types of autopsies and consults together, it's 411 total cases, I guess you'd say, or whatever, in 2019. Excuse me, it's 253, but the transports were 411. In 2020, add those three numbers together is 381. And the transports were 581, so transports went up out of proportion to everything else.
So not every case that gets transported gets an autopsy or a consult. I don't want to say a lot of times. Sometimes those cases are, I don't feel comfortable enough to release them to a funeral home. I need to hold them until I can look at some medical records to make a decision as to whether I need to do an autopsy, step further and do an autopsy. So they're still coming to the scene and picking those decedents up. So that is actually a transport. Okay.
Thank you.
So what is and you might have mentioned this earlier, but what is the difference between the YP and the MUS?
YP is York Pathology.
Okay.
That's our local pathology group that does autopsies here for us. And the MUSC those are the forensic cases that have to travel to Charleston.
Gotcha. Thank you.
How do you not attribute an increase to COVID?
I have a slide for that.
Okay.
Okay. So this is in our national, as part of our accreditation, we have to produce a yearly survey or a yearly report covering the number of cases that we deal with, the type of cases that we do. And this is just kind of showing you what types of cases and the numbers of the cases that we're having. The majority of cases that we deal with in York County are natural causes. Those will be like the medical reasons. So your cancers, your heart attacks, your HIV, those types of cases where we may be just doing a medical record review. And then we have those totaled over 1,900. In the blue, you'll see that those are accidents. Accidents cover anything from traffic fatalities, babies in inappropriate sleep environments, drug overdoses, fires, drownings, those types of things. Our suicide numbers were at 49, and our homicides were at 25. Just as a side note, we had 25 homicides for the entire year of 2020. We are at 22 homicides for this year already. Last night, we had our 22nd homicide. So it's just to kind of show you how that goes. Undetermined, you see that we had 10 of those. Generally, the undetermined cases are cases, most often those are baby cases where we cannot tell why that decedent died. We don't have a reason that they've died. I can't tell you that it's natural, so that it goes in the undetermined box. Sometimes it's, we can't decide between whether it was an accidental overdose or a suicidal overdose. Those will go in undetermined cases. So we don't have very many of those, but we have to put those together. The other, assist other agencies are gonna be your cases where we have people that have injuries here in York County and they get transported to our trauma center in Charlotte. When they get on that helicopter and they fly across state lines, it is now out of my jurisdiction, so I can't sign that death certificate. But if it is a homicide or something that needs to be autopsied, we have to bring them back here because the Charlotte Medical Examiner's Office is not gonna do that. So we have to work with them, bring them back here, so that works on our transport costs, our autopsy costs, all of those numbers as well. And that is more and more frequent as well, given that they are our trauma center and we're seeing cases that are going there. Any questions about that one?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, motor vehicle crash is on there twice.
The reason for motor vehicle crashes being on there twice. One, we have a policy in the office. If the motor vehicle crash is caused by an intoxicated or an impaired driver, I list that as a homicide versus an accident. So you'll have true accidental cases, and then we have homicide cases where they're actually going to have charges filed and working with Solicitor Brackett's office and either the Highway Patrol or one of the municipalities. You asked about COVID deaths and overall increases. So 2020, we had 2,305 deaths that were not related to COVID. Only 130 were related to COVID. So that's a little less than like 5% of our cases. We're right at 5%. Right at 5% of our cases were only COVID cases. So we didn't have a whole lot of COVID-related deaths. Please don't listen to DHEC and the numbers that are coming out because they're not right. They're inaccurate. They're just not there. This year so far, we have had 101 COVID-related deaths, and today we are at 827 cases overall since January 1. Sorry, that corrects. We were at 928. Sorry, 928 cases overall. 827 is non-related to COVID. Thank you. Any questions about that? So we're not seeing a lot of COVID cases, deaths related to COVID. They've actually slowed down a lot. They're not coming across the desk as frequently as they were. We've started to see a decline in those
Was
cases.
it just busy at the beginning of the year? 'Cause we're not quite halfway
It was
through.
busy in the beginning of the year. Yeah, around January. You know, you've always got flu-related cases in the winter months. I didn't see any flu cases come across my desk. They were all, you know, what came across were COVID-related cases. Any other questions about that part? So we also have a space issue, and I know that David has been, I have been in David's ear. We had to have an alternate morgue. We had to get a cooler to put in. It is put in at the Public Works building across from the animal shelter. That's where I have it. That's where I had no other place to put it because the cooler space at Piedmont is not acceptable for the caseload that we're seeing. We have to share that space with them. So they have hospital cases coming in, and our case numbers have increased so much. I don't have room. Was having to double stack decedents on stretchers because I was running out of space. So we do have an alternate morgue space. It is consistently with decedents there, and this all came to fruition at about the time COVID hit. It really had nothing to do with COVID, as you see the cases that we're having. Just a comparison to date, as of today's date, in 2020 we had 803 cases on this date. We've seen 928 as of today. So we are seeing that consistent trend of the cases are increasing. And with that, caseload has increased, but our employees really have not. Our cases, our employees are working 24-hour shifts. We're having an average of 10 calls a day. They're having multiple scene calls. And just going out on the scene is just a small part of what they're responsible for doing. So once they go out on that scene and they're collecting medications and personal property, and then they have to make family notifications, and then they have to do the documentation, they have to count all of those meds, they have to inventory the personal property. All of that stuff has to be done within a reasonable amount of time so that we can respond appropriately for toxicology, responding appropriately to families that are needing those personal property back. So, the caseload is swallowing the staff. We really do need more personnel in the office. The auditors came in yesterday. I mentioned that before I got started. From the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners, I had an auditor from Las Vegas, and I had an auditor from upstate Pennsylvania. They spent the afternoon with us yesterday. I am pleased to announce that we did pass our accreditation. I'm very happy about that. But they did note several things in the report, and they did notice that we are out of room in the offices that we currently are in. I have 3 people in one office. I have 2 in another, and it's just not conducive to talking to families, or even if they're not in the office itself, speaking to a family on the phone when another investigator is right there with them and you're trying to get information. It's very difficult to do. We have been very blessed with a community partner that saw some funds that they were not using, and they have reallocated those funds, and they have hired a part-time office staff and dedicated them to my office. I have a person working in my office that is not a York County employee, helping us to count meds, helping us to inventory property, because my staff doesn't have time to do it. So having an office person in addition to what we have now is going to be very, very beneficial, and I do appreciate that recommendation. And I will get this to you, the copy from the IACME, but their recommendation is that we add 2 to 3 more full-time deputies to the office to handle the caseloads that we're seeing. I will be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Sabrina. Any questions from council? Mr. Roddy?
Space versus employees, which one is more pressing need?
I'm sorry?
Space versus new employees.
You're making me choose? That's not fair. That's not fair.
And the reason why I say that, and I'll be openly honest, to come in, and we just gave you 1 new employee, so if we give you the three more that you're asking for, that'd be 4 employees, basically this budget, this go round. And in the past, I don't think we've given any department 4 employees like that. So I know that's gonna be part of the discussion that we're gonna have amongst ourselves, and I was just kinda wanting to get your take, if you had your pick. And I know it's very difficult.
I'm not gonna make that choice,
Okay.
because we are in desperate need of staff. Yes. We're also in desperate need of space. Our office has historically been understaffed. We're trying to come from behind, and we're coming from behind in a time where our caseload is exploding. So we're behind. You were, and I know that several times, not with this council sitting here, but I've had several opportunities to be in front of council, and you've tried to compare me to other counties. You can't compare apples to bananas. You just can't. You have to compare counties not only by the population and the staff numbers that they have, but the quality of the investigations that they're conducting. I've been compared to Horry County. I would challenge every one of you to call any police officer in Horry County and ask them how they get along with their coroner's office. I challenge you to call the SLED investigators in Columbia and ask them, are they following state mandates on child death investigations? Because they're not. So to compare me to a county that doesn't meet the standards that York County meets is not fair. So I can't choose between those two. I need both of them.
What county do you think does meet the standards? Who would you
If
like to
you're
be
gonna, if you're
compared
gonna
to?
compare, if you're gonna compare me to a county that has the standards about the same population, Spartanburg County. And the documentation that I've sent to you before has those numbers on there. They greatly outnumber our staff here in York County.
So Sabrina, I want to ask a question on the accreditation. So are you saying that we have to send more people for autopsies in order to keep that accreditation? Is that, I mean, I don't totally understand that, but.
So the accreditation standards state that if it's a forensic case, it must be conducted by a forensic pathologist. Our forensic cases have increased just by norm. They consider suicide cases a forensic case. We currently don't meet that standard because that's 60 more cases that I would be having to send to Charleston because I don't have that resource available to me here in the county.
So what is the accreditation, what's the benefit of the accreditation?
I think, it proves to the citizens of York County that the people that are conducting their investigation are qualified to do so and that they meet a national standard as far as death investigations go, how they should be conducted, the type of investigation that needs to be done, the type of documentation that needs to be done. It is something that I feel very strongly that York County residents deserve. We are a prominent county. We are a busy county. I'm sitting here listening to the tourism people talk about all the people that are coming into the hotels, and I'm like, holy smoke. Those are people that, because we have drug overdoses every day in the hotels. So those are more cases that we're dealing with in addition to the normal resident issues that we see that are calculated in the population.
And do we do autopsies on all of those?
Yes, ma'am.
So, are some things not, I am not, listen, I don't know anything, but are some things not obvious and like a gunshot wound that kills someone?
They are obvious until you get in front of a court with a defense attorney. Yes, ma'am.
So, but some things are not going to court, don't we? Do we know that early enough on? I'm just questioning the transport, the amount of transport.
You never know. You never know when things are going to be going to court or not. And I'm not willing to fudge on the accreditation part for those homicides. The suicides, if I feel queasy about a suicide, it's getting an autopsy and it's going to Charleston. But if it seems very clear cut and law enforcement is in agreement that it seems like it's a suicide, we don't autopsy those at this time. But that doesn't meet the national standard across the nation.
So do families pay for autopsies?
No, they do not. That comes out of the budget here. Now, yes, they can pay for autopsies. If it's something that we feel like we do not need to do an autopsy on, but the family is insistent that they want that autopsy, we can guide them and they can pay for a private autopsy. And that's not something that comes out of the county budget. But otherwise, if we as an office request that autopsy to be done, the county pays for that investigation.
So when you question DHEX numbers, are DHEX numbers not based on, like you had one column that was doctor's signatures, are DHEX numbers not coming from doctor's signatures where a doctor has said, hey, this person died of COVID and
So to clarify that and I can't speak to other counties, I can only speak to York County because that's what I know. I had several cases, deaths come across my desk that physicians wrote in the documentation from the hospital that they were COVID-related cases, but yet there was no COVID test done. There was no COVID positive test there. The decedent had no signs or symptoms of COVID. I can't, in my right conscience, sign that out as a COVID-related case. So you have COVID deaths that are reported from the hospitals based on what the physicians are saying. And then you have the death certificate that's actually completed by the coroner that has looked at the entire case as a whole and said either this is a direct cause of COVID or COVID may have played a role, but this person also had stage 4 brain cancer. I don't know which one they died from. So then it gets dropped to the significant condition on the bottom, and it may not be a main part on the death certificate, if that makes sense. And I would be happy to kind of go over some of those cases with you if you'd like to come in, and I can sit down and show you how we've done that. And we, in York County, any COVID case came through our office. So we pulled medical records, we talked to family members, they had to have that positive COVID test proximal to the death at that point in time, because I just didn't feel like that was, it was appropriate, based on what we
I
were
wonder,
seeing.
and you can, and I mean, I am interested in hearing more from you, but I'm just wondering how many were, maybe came to you as COVID that ended up not being COVID, and what was the delay? I mean, did we have to have the extra space because those people had to be checked for COVID, and maybe they stacked up, and I mean, I don't know. I just find it hard looking at 2020 and thinking that number didn't increase from COVID when just the people that I know that passed away from COVID. I mean, the Clover community had a ton of people that passed from COVID. So if you looked at just the town of Clover, their numbers, if you were looking at the graph of them, I mean, so many people passed. African-American men passed from the town of Clover, that's got to be, and it was COVID. So that number had to increase. I would think you would apply that whole percentage and that whole thing to countywide. So I'm just, you don't have to answer me everything here, but I am interested in knowing more about just the specifics of that.
Come see me, I'll be happy to sit down and go with you on how we kind of walk through those things. We had a challenge with DHEC. I'm still having challenges with DHEC and how I stopped reporting. If y'all remember when this first started, we were giving daily COVID death numbers, and every time I would give a death number, DHEC would come out with a different number, and I got tired of messing with the media because they were like, well, why are your numbers different from DHEC's numbers? And they're the official governmental agency. And I'm like, well, they're not signing out the death certificates. They're not in the trenches looking at the death certificates, signing things out. So I just stopped reporting it. So anytime they would call, I was like, get your numbers from DHEC. And because quite frankly, I didn't have the time to do that.
And I've seen some death certificates, with my clients, I have to see those to process estates and, beneficiaries and things. And I've noticed, there's a difference in dying from COVID and dying with COVID.
Yes, there is.
And those weren't always reported the same, so.
That is correct.
But that is a totally different, process. And I have one question. You may have sent this, and if so, I missed it in one of those emails, and I apologize, can't think of it tonight, but I would like to see the numbers, and you can just email me, in the next few days maybe, of how much the forensic pathology requirements have increased over the last year or two. The ones that need that pathologist. I see how much how many went down there, but as far as the overall numbers of how many we were able to do in-house that time, just the forensic part of it and what those numbers are. So,
I'll be happy to do that for you.
thank you.
Yes, I've got a quick question. First of all, thank you for this information. The one question I have is when I look at the numbers, and we may have discussed it, I may have missed, I do apologize if I did, but has there been a discussion around sharing a person that can go and do autopsies between our county, the next county over, and the next county, so we can, from a cost perspective?
Yes, there has been a discussion of that. My current problem is that I don't have a facility for them to share. I don't have anywhere for them to go, because our autopsies in York County are done at the hospital, and I don't own the hospital. I don't own that autopsy suite. So when David and I were talking, that was my big wish, is that I need an office that would house my staff. We have on-site morgue space, cooler space, and an autopsy suite for down the road, because we can't use the services in Charlotte because they don't let you come back over state lines. We're having to travel so far. The amount of money that we're spending to transport from here, we're going to Charleston 2 and 3 times a week. We are traveling that much. The money that we're spending, you certainly would save by having a forensic pathologist here. And not only that, you could pull in cases from Chester, Lancaster, Cherokee, Union, because they're having to do the same thing I'm doing. They're traveling out of county to a forensic pathologist to do their forensic cases because they don't have those services available to them in their county.
Yeah, Yeah, and I think it goes back to the question that Bump had in relation to location, the value of location and the build-out, such as you mentioned. That may open up an opportunity from a cost saving from the fact that maybe there can then be that location where there could be a shared doctor that does for multiple counties from within that location.
You could certainly do that. I would suggest that you also look at the model of having them contract with the pathologist that is a York County employee, because the services that he would be providing to those counties would be an income stream through our office that we don't currently have. I spend money, I don't make it. I mean, $20 for a cremation permit doesn't get me much. So, you know, we're spending money through the mouth on autopsies, but if York County has their own forensic pathologist that they pay a salary, you can pull in other counties to pay for those services on a per case basis and potentially make income for the county.
Right, offset the cost.
Yes.
Right, exactly. Okay.
I have two quick questions. Can't we test for COVID once someone passes away?
Yes, we can.
Okay. And my next, I guess this is a comment for our staff. I would like to see just what you mentioned, a cost benefit analysis of us getting that forensic pathologies versus what we're spending on transport back and forth to Columbia. Because I do hear what you're saying, how that's racking up the dollars going to Charleston 2 and 3 times a week, every single week, versus having something in-house closer here that we can control. And I like the idea of being able to offer that same, whether it's the same position or same facility, to some of our neighboring counties, because I'm sure Chester doesn't have one, Lancaster doesn't have one. They're having to send people out as well.
Right.
So I would like to see what that would look like cost-wise if we look to do something along those lines. And I think that would probably help get us closer to where we need to be with the
And I
dollar.
know that we are working, they were working on that.
Okay.
Yes.
I like
Yeah,
to see
I can
that.
speak to that a little bit. We have been working with Sabrina on what the new facility might look like, and understood that she does need some more morgue space and more office space, and trying to incorporate into that whatever building she ends up with as an upgrade for where she is now. We've worked a lot with Aaron Siegler on gathering data, and I think it makes sense to have some capacity built into whatever building she has, where maybe you do some autopsies or maybe have some room for expansion. Because forensic pathology is so expensive, they make a lot of money, the people that do that. I don't know that the models that we looked at very preliminarily really support us having our own doctor to do that. I wouldn't rule it out, but it doesn't appear to be cost effective to do that. So we have looked at other options, and I think we would build that into whatever we do building wise for the coroner. But again, just our initial look at that, it's doesn't seem to be cost effective even to have a pathologist that work for us and get other cases from other counties. Again, it was very preliminary, so I would say that, you know, we could look at it again once we get further into the discussion of what the building's going to look like and how big it's going to be and what construction costs and all that are going to be. I think that makes sense, but we did try to crunch some numbers early on, and that because the salaries are so high, and I don't remember exactly what they were, but they were pretty much cost prohibitive for that.
I know, I just as an added to put in that, one of the auditors that was in the office yesterday from Salt Lake City, they just put out a job posting for a pathologist in their office, and they're offering $250,000 a year, plus a nice benefit package. But that's what they're going for out there.
How many years of schooling do I need?
Where do we apply?
How many years of schooling do I need?
Yeah.
So where's the
Many,
closest
because
one?
I've thought about it.
Where is the closest one to us?
To us, Columbia. But they don't want to do just the forensic cases, they wanted them all.
Right. So that's why we're going to
So that's why we have to go to Charleston. I
That-
can't afford to send all of the cases that we do I mean, they wanted everything. They wanted the consults, they wanted the medical autopsies, they wanted everything, plus the forensic cases. And I just don't have the time to send staff. I mean, we would have transport, literally every day there. We do autopsy or consult just about every day.
Yeah, and I would say I wouldn't rule out the possibility of doing it on a contract basis with somebody that was a forensic pathologist, but I don't think there are any here in York County right now, and
A forensic pathologist is not, no, we do not have.
so,
any
I mean,
here in
if
the
that
county.
was a possibility down the road, we may be able to do on a contract basis, but just another option, so.
That kind of answered one of my questions. You said there was just a little bit over 600 of the forensic pathologists throughout
Correct.
the U.S. So we have one in Columbia, we have one in Charleston.
We have one, well, we have one in Columbia, we have three or four in Charleston. We have one in Spartanburg, we have two in Greenville, we have one in Myrtle Beach, and I believe that Aiken and Anderson just hired one as a combo for their area.
Okay. And Spartanburg wouldn't do it either?
He works part-time in Greenville and covers the Spartanburg County, and they have too many cases to take on any additional cases at this point.
So there is a need for it. I mean, other than
Yes.
Northwest, Middle, Coast, there's a huge void throughout the state.
So I know from speaking with the coroners in Lancaster County also travels to Charleston. Chester County will sometimes travel to Newberry, but mostly will go to Charleston. They will actually send some of their medical cases to the pathology group here in York County. Cherokee County goes all the way to Newberry or Charleston. Union County, they don't do a whole lot of autopsies, period, so I don't know where they go. Fairfield County, Charleston, there's just not, there's not anyone in our area at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sabrina. Any other questions from council? Thank you, we appreciate all that.
Thanks.
This time, do we have a motion for executive session?
Move that we go into executive session for the receipt of legal advice regarding a contractual matter involving Visit York County.
Second.
And that one.
Right there. Oh, and also, for legal advice regarding another contractual matter, GT Real Estate Philo.
Motion is second? We'd have second. Motion is second. Any discussion?
Yeah.
It was added by legal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll move straight into executive session. We are out of executive session. No action was taken. Do we have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.